everyone. Good to see everyone again. Hope you had good holidays and New Year's and everything. So before you guys today, I have the financials for end of the year 24. End of the year close hasn't occurred yet, and we still have a couple things going on, so I'll go over that briefly here in the memo. Attached is the RDA budget and actuals report as of December 31st, 2024, and as of January 31st, 2025. These reports present year-to-date budgeted and actual expenditures in the operating budget and actual expenditures in the capital budget. Revenues, expenditures, and other funding sources are reported once they are realized. As of December 31st, 2024, current expenditures are $76,039.73. With contractual services, the following expenses have been paid: $82.30 related to postage and shipping, $47.10 for auditing costs, $154.79 in special services related to bond costs. Within utilities, the following expenses have been paid: $319.94 within water services, $29,490 spent on bond issue expenses. Finally, $45,945.60 related to loss on property related to land credits with Menominee Market. They were able to fulfill their commitment in their contract, so they get their land credit of $50,000. So there's a little bit of accounting in there that makes it a little lower. Expected is land credits to hit in 24 for the Cannery Park, PNR properties. They have submitted all their paperwork, so we're reviewing it as we speak for 23 and 24 land credits. Each year, they're able to have up to $150,000 of land credits, and we're expected to see a $300,000 expense in 24 related to PNR properties. As of January 31st, 2025, no expenses have been applied to the RDA. Is there any questions?
A couple of quick questions. Thank you. How long will those land credits for PNR properties, how many years is that going out?
So they have a 10-year pay schedule. However, there's only $500,000 allowable in land credits. Okay. And at this point, it's expected they'll hit the $300,000, so just a little bit left remaining. Okay. And then full payback amount was $1.5 million, Karen?
Correct.
Okay.
The land credits were front-loaded during the time when they're under construction, doing the build-out and occupancy. So it's intended to kind of shift back into their annual payments for the balance once they have occupancy and are collecting revenues. Okay. That's how the DA was constructed for that.
Okay. Thank you. And also, new member question. When there is a fund balance, or I guess when there is a positive balance at the end of the year, does that go to the RDA long-term fund balance?
That is sticky in the RDA. So
okay.
The majority of the RDA funding comes from the general fund. Yeah. It doesn't swoop back to the general fund. It'll stick to the RDA, which is good because we'll be seeing a lot of these land credits coming through. So anything that we put in the fund balance is great to kind of catch up on these land credits.
Thank you. And is that $348,000 the fund balance, or is that a different number somewhere else?
That is related to the capital project. Let's see. It looks different when it's in the spreadsheet, but this is the capital project that's outstanding for Cannery Park related to the RDA, which there hasn't been any more on.
Okay. Do you happen to know what the fund balance is for the RDA?
Not offhand. I know at the moment it's decently healthy, but once we start getting into these land credits, we'll have to be savvy and also be mindful that we are getting paid back in the future. So we'll see that $1 million flow back through from PNR, for example, which will shove in the fund balance.
Okay.
Just for your, as a new member, one of the incentives that we gave, which was related to Menominee Food Co-op, there is a cash incentive or assistance part of that project. I don't remember the full amount. I believe it was around $400,000 that went to Menominee Food Co-op. Instead of paying it to TIF, it was paid out of the RDA cash reserve. So that's also that was a kind of unique one that we did, that project went forward as well, that a lot of folks might not remember or would not be aware of.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Do you think in the next month or the next meeting's financials, you could show the fund balance as well? And maybe.
Absolutely, I can bring that.
Thank you, that'd be great.
And Aaron, towards that, we only have those two kind of hanging out there right now as far as the credits back, right? Is that
Correct. Yeah, we did staggered payments on the land purchases for the Block 7 development and for the P&R properties.
okay with those questions covered? Do we have a motion on the financials? A motion and second. Any discussion? If not, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The financials are approved. Then next up, public comment for items not listed as a public hearing or discussion item. See nobody there. Then business items with public hearing or public discussion. Other business, request from Moating Partners to extend the MOU on Riverside site for an additional 90 days.
Good morning, RDA. Glad to be in front of you guys this morning. Nice to see you again. This is one that we've seen in the past. Looking back in the minutes from our last meeting on November 20th would have been our last 90-day extension with MOU, or with Moating Partners, the 90-day extension of the MOU for the Riverside site. With this is kind of an ongoing conversation that we're having with the developer. In the past, they were working through the financing, working with our finance department, seeing if there was possibly any incentive that could go towards the project. The project itself is a 3-story residential building, roughly 21 to 24 units, with 6 to 8 300 square feet commercial spaces on the front for live workspaces. With parking internally. There has been some, not issues, but conflict with the site with being such a long, slender site. The newest thing that has popped up is the original survey work that was done for the site. There were some errors. So the developer's been working through that, reconfiguring their layout of their project. With that, they're requesting a 90-day MOU extension, but at the same time, if it does not work structure-wise within the site, they would potentially like to look at another development within that space. This is an idea that they're throwing around, but for this particularly, this would be a 90-day MOU extension for their current project in the space. At our last meeting, we discussed that if the MOU was to expire, I had have conversations with another developer in the early stages of the project with Hiker Coffee to do kind of a community mixed use roastery / restaurant / cafe concept in this space with no residential. But at this time, we are still under an MOU, or we're under an MOU with Moating Partners, and potentially, depending on today's vote, under another 90-day MOU extension. Either if that was to expire today and not be extended, I would reach out to that group and also make Moating Partners aware. And in the future, we could have 2 proposals coming forward to the RDA, and the RDA could choose to go under an MOU with either one of them, or if somebody else was to apply or submit a proposal. Or if this MOU is extended 90 days and the project cannot go forward in its original form, it could also be opened up for other people to submit development proposals for this space. So again, today, 90-day MOU extension for the current project within the Cannery District with Moating Partners.
Could you remind us, we did the 90-day extension in November. What are the dates on those? And then second, is that our first or second extension on that particular
Yep, that would have been our second, so this would be our third with this project. I do not remember offhand. Yep. Yep, we would be expired. It was November 20th, so 90 days from November 20th.
Can you remind us how this project was selected in the first instance?
Yep. So our typical process here in the RDA is economic development. We have a developer list. So we have about 50 developers on this list, whether it's local, regional, entire US wide. For RDA projects, we submit out just the concept. There is an RDA master redevelopment plan done back in the teens. So we submit that out, the work that Vandewell did for the space, and we garner interest from our developers and then have one-on-one conversations with them to see what would fit or see if they have a project proposal for that space. And then whatever project proposals we receive, we bring those to the RDA. And for this space, this was the only project at the time that was brought forward.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
If this were to go back out, would we be saying fit the concept that was adopted years ago, or would it be tell us your best project for this site?
Tell us your best project for the site. Yep. According to the master redevelopment plan for the space, it was supposed to be or geared towards a mixed-use development. 3 stories would be the max, because otherwise it would be blocking the views of P&R right across the street. And then obviously density with it is limited based on the space of the site.
So my question is, time is time, and time goes quickly, right? So this is the third time. What is the expectation, or what has been the expectation of, in the last 90 days, we wanted them to do X? Is it truly, we'll use finances till the economy changes, so I'm not sure that's always the best case, but there was an error in a survey. I heard you kind of comment. Is that what has caused this 90 days to not move at the pace with which they wanted to move? And then if we extended 90 days, what's the expectation that in that 90 days you're getting updates and things are actually happening? Because otherwise I just feel like we're going to be at the next 90 days and wish we had another 90 days.
Yep, I would say it hasn't necessarily been all of it on the developer side. I would say there is, in the previous MOU, it was on the financing side, conversations going back between the city and the developer. Now, this issue arose. From my point of view, if it wasn't to be extended 90 days, I still believe that they would come forward with a proposal potentially for a different project to fit the site. But this would be to see if they can make their current project working within the space.
I'd probably add, I think some of its construction costs are running
Correct.
really high still. And I'm guessing we'll see a little bit of a modification of their current design to try and bring those numbers down to make them pencil out correctly. And Ray, just for your information, as an overall process, we've dropped doing RFPs. We had more and more developers tell us we don't even respond to them. The last one for the transit center, we saw 2 respond to that. The last RFP we did for Block 7, we only had 2 respond to that, when before we were getting 4 or 5. The experienced developers just saying they don't work, they tend to pigeonhole them too much, so they don't even pay attention to them. So this process that Jake uses of just pitching the site out more like a real estate marketing company or developing marketing company would for a space, we get way better projects. We use our master plan as a guideline. This is, like Jake said, the kind of the vision for that area, but show us what you do well and show us how it fits on that site. And we've gotten way better project responses, and we're getting a lot more creative projects going this route.
Yep, just a little bit less on this space just because of the constraints of the space.
And I am hung up a little bit on the idea that there was a survey error that, now has triggered some things. I know there was discussion before already of maybe needing to change a little bit of their layout or their proposal. A survey error that comes in somewhere along the line and so on, I'm more inclined to say, yeah, let's give them some leeway there. But are we, with 2 prior extensions without that issue and not having made enough progress, are we better off, and this is maybe a question for the board here, are we better off just ending this one and opening it up to the other proposals?
I would say, just to add flavor, that it was probably a little more than just a mismapped CSM. When Oxford Street was redone with angled parking, street ended up being a little wider than they had originally anticipated, so they lost a little bit of space from the actual construction. So it's not just an incorrect line on the map, the actual physical street improvement infrastructure ate up a little bit more of the space. So it's narrowed it up, which is a very narrow space. It's very difficult to build on to begin with. Everybody's commented on that, so that's an awfully skinny lot who's looked at it, so.
Especially if you're trying to figure in parking coming around the backside, if I remember what they had there.
Do you have a sense, you said that they would probably come back if we didn't extend this, come back with a different project. And the one thing that I'm struggling with is if you have a 3 to 4 story building with 21 to 24 units, that's probably $15 million-ish or something?
Yeah. It
Oh,
was,
5 million?
Yeah.
5 to 7. Would we be trading a 5 to 7 that potentially would be brought forward within the next 90 days for a 2 to 3? You know, and I don't know with the Hiker Coffee if it's a restaurant and a roastery with no living space. Whether it's probably a smaller project, although it sounds pretty cool to be there with, you know, adding a feature that would draw people in. So kind of a bird in the hand versus what would come out thing.
Yeah, most definitely. I think there'd be a loss in valuation, potentially. I think even if there's a reconstruction of their concept, if they lose some of the density potentially based on the constraints of the site, I think there'd be a loss in valuation as well. I think current rendering is about as high as a value you get in the space. And it could potentially go down. I don't think it would be 2 to 3 million, but it could be that lower end, maybe 4.5, 6 million.
Sounds like the bird in the hand is taking flight as it is, so I'm inclined to not support this and to see how we can move the site along again.
Yep. And if you decide not to extend, obviously we have a good relationship with them. We'll have a conversation, say definitely still supportive of a project. Would like to encourage you to resubmit on the space, but opening up to other developers at this time.
I think I'd like to see in the 90 days, if we let them do this, how quickly they could come back with it's either going to work or not work.
Right.
And what I mean by that is why we say 90 days. What happens if we give them 60 days and say, we need you to decide, to Dave's point, does what we see work? If not, then it's on them to say, no, it doesn't. If it doesn't, we go back out and we put it back out. But I think I view time as time with deadlines, maybe in a different way, right? I just don't want to do 90 days. I'd like to do 60 days, or I mean, if it's 90, I don't know the time frame that makes sense. But somewhere along those 90 days, we need monthly updates if we're meeting monthly of are they coming, you know, and then let them decide 45 days in, there's no way we're going to be able to build this and we need it different. And I think at that point, then we say we want to put it back out, right? At that point, then it doesn't do what we thought it was going to do based on the way we wanted to sell the land.
So are they kind of along those lines? Are they are the right-of-way lines and their parcel lines set, or are they still updating the parcel lines so they don't have that to where they're double checking that, or is the ball in their court so they do have the new lines and it's up to their architect and developer
That'd be
to
a question for Director White.
They do have the new space. They hired Sean Bohan with AEC, local engineer, who has relayed out the site and is using a corrected space available to do some blocking and layout for their project. So they are accommodating that shift in the right of way because of the street improvement and then the angle parking that was added to Oxford Ave.
But it seems, I mean, Sean is a reputable engineer, and I think kind of agreeing with Pam. 90 days, I don't think you need 90 days. If they have it, they should be able to have something in 30 or 45. If this was to be extended, I don't
so hearing that we have a few different thoughts on it, but, maybe the compromise is something along the lines of what Pam had suggested is, either 45 or 60-day extension, but with a harder view of saying, make your proposal work, or can you make it work, or do we open it up and let them come back to us affirmatively within that time frame? I just, to just do it for 90 days just kind of throws it out there for another block of time that we've already done a couple of times. And, the survey piece is strong enough to me to say, we'll give them a little bit of time, but not have to do the full 90.
So if it was amended to 45 days, that would take effect from today then, or
when it gets signed.
When it gets signed?
Yep.
Okay. So we would be able to have it back before us, or we'd be able to take action for our April meeting.
Correct.
If it was 45, it would be within that time frame. So, okay.
What happens after the decision, if they can move forward? What happens then for the negotiations? Do we get in 45 days, oh wait, we can make it work, but we still need another 60 days to finalize the agreement? Is that, so we'll get it, if it can work, we'll get another extension request?
Yeah, more than likely.
Okay.
Do we have a motion to work with?
I would second that motion.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I guess my only other thought that goes into it is we have had a number of successful projects with molding, and just, I guess granting the professional courtesy that they wouldn't ask if they didn't have good intention with it. I don't think it was just an ask, because so partially with the past and hopefully future relationship issue kind of weighs a little bit into my mind with that as well, as opposed to being, I guess, a little bit more hard if they don't have a proven track record.
And Dave, I agree with you. I also think it gives them the opportunity that if they want to modify, they also know, like, if you say no, this is going back up. So I would want them to understand that. It's not that it's a no never, but if it's a no on this one and you'd like to modify it, yes, it would go back out with other opportunities, but at least it gets them to a point where they know we're willing to hear their modification too, whatever that might be.
Yep.
Just for reference, this is not the most extensions we've ever granted on a project. I believe 4 or 5 is the current standing record for extensions on a. It was a much bigger project that was a little more complicated, but this is not the most extensions we've granted before.
Silver Creek Equity was a year and a half.
And on the extension side of things, I think that was in our memory as we started to talk in prior meetings about how many extensions do you allow and how accommodating can we be in that regard. And I think it, rather than any sort of hard, fast rule, it's things like Dave mentioned with, okay, do we have a track record working with them? Do we have success there? But also being mindful of our responsibility to say, hey, we've got property here to be developed, and if there is other interest and so forth, we've got to be mindful of that and not just keep it tied up for an extended period of time when nothing happens. So,
yeah, to that point, it is February, and we're getting to construction season, and it'd be nice to see something start on this lot before the next winter starts.
correct. Any further discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion to pass with the 45-day extension is approved. Then we've got discussion of future RDA areas of focus. So,
This was a carryover from last meeting's agenda. So just having continuous work on this, nothing really to report on right now, but really doing a deeper dive into that westward expansion of the Cannery District, and then doing some reach out and contacts in that southwest quadrant along Short Street 37 over there. So will be more information to come, but at this time, no additional information.
and that's not just because it's too cold to go outside and walk around town.
Nope.
Okay.
It's been a busy last couple of months.
All right. Any further input from the RDA board for staff in that regard?
Just a quick question. Is the extension of North Barstow redevelopment district on the table as well?
It is, but based on our conversation at the last meeting, the focus was a little bit more on cannery in that quadrant. It is, but it's kind of a third option that we're kind of doing just constant research in.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, then on to the Brownfields Assessment Grant update.
We've got a couple notes. So Brownfield Assessment Grant, obviously, over the last couple of months with the new administration, there's been kind of conversations around funding and where it's at. We've decided to continue to move forward on this. We took a pause for a couple of weeks or a month or so after the executive order came down to halt some funding for different programs, but we've continued to do research in this realm. Feel comfortable doing this with errors. So the HVAC facility on the north end of the Cannery District, the Wisconsin HVAC that we've talked about multiple times in this meeting, has agreed to do a phase 1 environmental on this space. We think it could be a good potential site to do some preliminary planning also with these funds. So it could be a great use of the funds. We also continue to reach out to other developers. There's one developer within the city that owns a multitude of parcels that we haven't been able to receive an answer back from on a location in the North Barstow area, north of Madison Street. So continuing to try and reach out, make contact to see if we can do some phase 1 environmental or phase 2 on that space. For potential redevelopment, assessing the space, and then potentially assisting them with some planning dollars if they ever do plan to redevelop that space. Otherwise, continuing to work through some of the other properties that have already been assessed, but continuing just some good forward progress within this EPA Brownfields grant. At some point, I would say when we get a little bit farther in the process, I think we'll do a little bit more formal presentation to the RDA board when we can actually map out the spaces that have done the phase 1 reviews and do kind of an overview and put it out if there's any other spaces that the RDA would like to look at outside of kind of I would say the internal list that we have in our mind that we typically track.
Thank you for the update. What's the timeline on the overall grant as far as how long do you have to do this work?
I'm trying to remember back, it's 3
Yeah, I
3 years.
believe it'd wrap up end of 2026, I believe. So we secured, the grant was awarded in early fall of last year.
So some good continuous work for staff via update informations to the RDA board, and hopefully potentially have some projects coming out of that in the future.
Yeah, as Jake indicated, we had a small meeting for developers. Mayor's had staff there that kind of walked them through the program, and several of them approached Jake and I both about, hey, I've got a couple sites I'm going to send your way. So we're just waiting for them to start putting some of these recommendations forward. So apparently some of our and we had developers, we had property representatives, so hopefully we'll be seeing a few more requests come forward. We're looking to try and do something. AIRS is recommending doing something more of a one-on-one setting with developers, because sometimes you get property owners in an open room and they don't really want to talk about what's going on with their spaces, particularly if you're talking about the dirty laundry of what's going underneath their spaces. So we think a one-on-one approach might entice some folks to come in who wouldn't otherwise set up at an open space meeting.
I was gonna save this for the executive director report, but it falls under this too. This was 2 weeks ago, down in Milwaukee. There was the governor's conference on economic development. I had the privilege of presenting, or being a presenter with Keely Campbell from AIRS. It was not specifically tied to this brownfields grant, but it was tied to government funding or cooperation and working together. So definitely was able to hit on this program and had quite a few conversations afterwards about all the good work that we're doing here at the RDA, but also with the EPA Brownfields Grant and different projects that we've been doing throughout the city. So just good awareness for the project, had conversations about what other cities are doing with it. Talked with West Allis quite a bit about they were awarded this grant and they've been moving through the process, and they did quite a bit of planning with their grant in different regions of their city. So just gathering more information about how to use it and utilize it.
Thank you. Any other questions on the Brownfield Assessment Grant? All right, thank you, Jake. Then we've got the Executive Director's report.
What I always like to do, so I was driving back from Menominee yesterday after another conference, Momentum West conference, and I always love driving down 3rd Street and going through the Cannery District and checking it out, especially on a beautiful day like yesterday. But P&R properties moving along very smoothly. Phase 1 on the exterior is continuing to move fast and furious. Looks like they're getting close to finishing up the facade work. Phase 2 has already started. They have the first floor structure up. They have all the framing up. They had the elevator shafts up. So that's continuing to move forward. As well as Kessler Park itself is looking great. Obviously, it's got 8 inches to a foot of snow on it, so it's a little bit hard to see the grass right now, but that's continuing to look great. It's definitely getting some use. People were out there sledding yesterday. Also driving by Kessler Park, a little update on that itself. The plan internally is that we plan to promote out Kessler Park the week of March 17th out to our developer list and gather some information or some proposals for that space. We have been on the front end secretly shopping it out a little bit to some LIHTC developers since it typically takes them a little bit longer to bring a project forward. So there is some interest on the front end. We're hoping to gather quite a few proposals for that space. At that time, it has been a couple months since we've promoted out the Heights location. So after promoting out Kessler Park, I would say probably mid-April, we'd promote out the Heights location as well. We've been working on in conversations with developers on the Heights location, but they're currently doing other developments within the city, so it's kind of been on the back burner, but trying to get that to the front of mind. The Heights location is that strip along the Cannery Park Trail just south of the High Bridge Trail. It actually buds up to this Wisconsin HVAC packing plant on the parks on the east side, plants on the west side. Other things on the housing side within that district, but also within the city of Eau Claire, we've been working with a developer on the potential for manufactured homes to do infill development. They're looking to potentially purchase a city lot to do a demo project to see if they can get some good marketing and show proof of concept. If that's to go forward, I think this could be a potential great group to do infill development within a future expansion of the cannery district or throughout the rest of the city. So that's been a great conversation to have. Otherwise, things downtown are continuing to move smoothly as well. Great conversations. Received a call yesterday on a potential to fill Haymarket Landing, or a majority of Haymarket Landing, which has sat vacant for a while, so that could be a great addition to the downtown. Hoping we can get some continual process and progress there. Otherwise, continue to have conversations with partners internally. Economic Development Department with our new marketing has been going out and reaching out to all of the local developers, realty, property owners, property managers, to get all of the available sites on our new Economic Development website. That will be great because then we can promote it out and backfill spaces, hopefully assist in backfilling spaces sooner, as well as just continue to create that vibrancy that's been created over the last 20 years.
Probably hit on some high-level things. The zoning overhaul for the city, we had what was scheduled to be the final ZPAC, that's the combined Plan Commission and council meeting on Monday. We did receive some feedback from council members that's going to put us back to the drawing boards in a couple of areas. So we are likely going to have another combined meeting of those two organizations in May. On the timeline, the schedule would be to go to Plan Commission for a review and a recommendation in June, and then council would receive the draft for final vote sometime in one of the two sessions in July. So we're wrapping up what ended up being about a 2-year process when we idealistically thought it was maybe a year to do it. Turns out writing code is a whole lot more time consuming than they thought. And then on the heels of that, we will immediately start setting up to do the comprehensive plan overhaul, which is the 10-year comp plan. 2025 is the year, so we will start the process. What we'll likely be doing is setting up structure at the end of this year, so we're talking probably late summer, maybe early fall. Start putting together steering committees, the processing we want to go through. We're taking a hard look at how they did it in 2015 and seeing if we might be shifting around. The steering committee was like 50 people on that steering committee, and some of the feedback was it was a little unwieldy at times. So we may look at maybe doing something more along the lines of what the zoning code did, which was have kind of a smaller focus group to help draft, then run phases of it throughout multiple stakeholder groups, getting feedback, making adjustments, and then continuing to do that process. Bulk of the work will occur in 2026. So we're moving through that process. So a couple of bigger things going forward, but still seeing a lot of activity. One of our planners is finishing out the housing data is done, but they're finishing out the analysis of trends from permits for construction. They're working on the industrial commercial pieces right now. We definitely see the trend line showed us a little bit of a drop down for 2024. It's a little misleading because a lot of permits of some big projects like P&R Properties, they actually pulled their permits in 2023, but they won't occupy until 2025. So permit data for tracking trends of construction is a little off because big projects skew across multiple years. But we'll be releasing that out. So that's a state statute required to release that information. It will be going to present it to Plan Commission. I believe it's intended to be presented to Plan Commission in March, and then it will be on our website and available for the public as well. Since we've been getting a lot of inquiries, I'll just make comments. So we've been getting a lot of calls about the Mount Washington project. It was public notice. There is a construction lien on that site against the contractor with just under $1 million owed to the builder, to the contractor by the developer on materials purchased. We don't know what's going on. They've had permits for the next phase have been available for them to pay the permit fees in full since, actually it's about a year now. We haven't heard from them. We've reached out to them, haven't heard a response back to them. So one of the news stations called us that they'd heard that the developer pulled out. I suppose what action maybe they have, but we've not received any formal notification that they're not moving forward on it, but they definitely haven't been responsive, so we don't have much of an update on what's going on in that project. But it's one we've been hearing a lot about, a lot of inquiries about, and just don't have any other updates on that one. It's sad, but at the very least, they demoed the small nursing facility that the roof was separating, it was full of so much black mold, you needed a respirator to walk in the building, so at the very least, we got that building torn down. And so it's not a complete waste of time on that project, I guess. So that's a lot of what's going on the upper level, broader across the community type stuff.
Thank you, Aaron. And it seems like only 10 years ago that they did the last comprehensive plan, you know? It's funny how that goes. But anyway, any other items for discussion today's meeting? Not, we will adjourn, and thank you all, and the next meeting comes up on March 19th.
Yeah, thank you.